What's up, everybody? I should stop that music. We tried. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Digital Fiction. I hope everyone is having a good night tonight. We had some technical difficulties with OBS, but you know what? We ain't going to let that stop us. We're here to give you another fun episode, and we promised to do this weekly, and we kind of got held back. We both had a lot of things going on, so I apologize. But we do plan to have our show regularly on probably Saturday night. But if we can't do it on Saturday, we're going to do it on Friday night. Before we even go any further, Dr. Josh, what's up? How you doing tonight, my man?
Yeah, doing okay. I'm really sorry, everybody. I swear, for an hour before the stream started, I had OBS up. I like practiced recording it, and looking at the recording, making sure the transitions were right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Josh is really being hard on himself here, but it's technology. We're still trying to figure it out. OBS isn't perfect, but it's going to work for us. We're getting everything going. We did have green screens and lights, but you know what? It was getting late, and we were like, we need to get a show done. So we're just going to do this old school, which is fine. We know what you guys are here for. You guys are here for this genuine entertainment. And, of course, Dr. Josh's sexy face. But now, Dr. Josh may not know, but I already switched the title of the video to Haters Gonna Hate, which is not the title that we had originally gone with. But I was like, you know what? It's the truth, though. Haters Gonna Hate. And the reason we're talking about this is, really, it was more targeted at Josh and Digital Hammurabi, I guess, more than me. But somebody was not too happy, you could say, about our slavery video and some of our slavery debates. Is that right, Dr. Josh?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Megan said something to me a couple of months ago, and this is all part of being out here in this community, being on YouTube, and we both know that cognitively. But Megan, people started making comments, kind of weird people started making comments that were rather vitriolic, and she just said, you know what, I don't know, I just want to share good information with people. I just want to talk about the ancient Near East. I don't really feel like engaging on all this stupid stuff, and I feel her pain. Like I get it, and I mean, she's got a thick skin, I got a thick skin. It's all fine, but I get that people get upset about this stuff. I really do, and I totally understand it. And I don't. It's not like I harbor any bad feelings or anything, but yeah, somebody I don't know who he is, honestly, but I saw a video on JMD Apologetics, John's channel, and John seems like a really cool guy. I've chatted with him a little bit. Skylar, I think you've talked to him before. Is that right? You had him on?
We've been trying to set up a conversation. I think we're going to do one in the future.
Oh, okay.
JMD Apologetics. Is it?
But I mean, like, seems like a really neat, really nice guy.
Yeah.
And so he had a video up, and it was apparently somebody else in the video that he was sharing out. And it was a cool little video. I mean, it really was. The guy was talking about different apps. He was showing people different apps on your phone that you can use to like look at Greek and Hebrew and, kind of look at, it's sort of like having a Strong's Concordance, something akin to that. And, grammars and anyway. But my problem with the video, and if you haven't seen it, it's up on our channel. My problem with the video was not so much that like he was doing something wrong. That wasn't my point. It was just that sort of the idea behind whether he meant to or not, he was coming across with this idea that without training in Greek and Hebrew and Aramaic for a long time, if you use these apps, can critique, the people that have been doing this for decades. And you can check their translations, which is just, it's not a good idea to have that when you come to If you don't have that training, it's very difficult to do that sort of thing. And so that was my point in the critique. But I said several times in the video, I think it was really admirable what he was doing. I don't know. I mean, he mentions it at the end of this video that he put up, that I had a scathing review of him, which it really took me by surprise that he used the word scathing.
Well, who says whatever Josh says? Like, dude, I've never heard you above like just a mild frustration, right? Like, let alone a scathing, like angry type review towards anybody without you apologizing 5 times while you're doing it. So, I
mean, when I like the way that he presented the video, he Facebooked Megan, and I don't know if he was intending to Facebook Megan or me or whatever, but he said like he put a link, and the video is called like shredding or ripping apart or something like that, Digital Hammurabi and Skylar Fiction, and like destroying atheists or something like that. And he put a link in and said, enjoy, smiley face. And Megan, you know, in her very kind way, wrote back with a smiley face and said something like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but something like, I'm not really interested in watching a video where somebody tries to tear apart my husband. And he wrote back, there's more where this came from. Tell your husband there's more where this came from. It's going to be uploaded onto, you know, some other channel. And she said, please stop messaging me. And he wrote, oh, I get it. You just want your cake. You want your cake and eat it too. And then she blocked him, which I do not blame her.
Well, I love how like some of these YouTube Christians too that have like 5 subscribers, like 20 views on the channel. Like, I'm gonna really get them. Like, nobody's gonna see it. Like, if you ask to come on our channel now, you can come on and talk to us live and read it to us, rip us apart in person, tear the shreds. I beg people. We both beg people to come on. You guys would not believe, like, especially with Dr. Josh, they are so intimidated by this dude. And
they're intimidated by you, Skylar.
But so people get so nervous. I'm like, dude, just come on. We'll talk. If you stay friendly and nice with us, the conversation is going to be fine. It's only when you're arrogant and rude that, like, I'm going to be tougher on you. I'm going to ask you tougher questions. I'm going to press you on the issues. But, like, you know, one of the things is, like, just ask. It's all you do. SkylarFictionShow@gmail.com, DigitalFictionShow@gmail.com, or digitalhammurabi@gmail.com. You got that right? By the way, if this is your first time ever watching Digital Fiction, I forget this isn't our usual channel, Josh. So if this is your first time watching, Dr. Josh and I have our own channel, Skylar Fiction Show. And, well, I should say our channel. He's always on my channel. Now, Skylar Fiction Show, and then we got Digital Hammurabi. All the links are in the description today. But we thank you for watching.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's like, if you're going to trash talk, just come on and have some fun. And we're happy to answer questions. We'll sit there and get drilled, and not in a sexual way, but just in a way that if you want to answer, we'll answer your questions, right? So, something to think about. I should give a couple shout outs. I'm going to say, can I say some couple things before we go? Because we do have the video, and we will admit that this is an edited video. We kind of shortened it up because there's a lot of just nonsense in there that's probably not worth wasting everybody's time with. I haven't particularly watched it. Dr. Josh has already prepared me for the nonsense that will be in there. But we had almost 500 subscribers on this channel already.
Yeah.
And we haven't even, I think we've done 3 videos. We did like a promo video and 2 hangouts. And this is now the 3rd hangout we've done. So thank you, all of you that are watching, the 31 of you guys checking us out right now live. You guys are amazing. This fan art that you guys see, especially the one you saw in the beginning here, I want to make sure I get the guy's name right. Joseph Strine actually has made this. And I'm just going to share it one more time here, just so you guys can see it. Joseph Strine, he made us this awesome digital fiction picture. And this is, like, I am absolutely in love with this artwork right here. Like, this is incredible. Like, it looks good. It's stylish. I mean, look at Dr. Josh right here. It's absolutely amazing here. Like, we got the Raptor Jesus is back here. Fantastic. And I want to, you know what, Dr. Josh, is it okay if I play the intro real quick?
Yeah, please.
So he also took the time to make us the intro, and got so much praise. He just started donating $10 a month to the Patreon on the Skylar Fiction Show, all in one day. This guy deserves a fucking medal, is what this guy deserves. And he's getting a lot of my praise because it's genuinely good artwork. And I'm about to show you guys right now the intro video that he made. Here we go. Fantastic. Short, sweet, incredible. Joseph Stein, we thank you for doing this and for donating to me on Patreon. I've actually, we'll talk about that on Skylar Fiction. We're talking about digital fiction. A bunch of people donated today and made Skylar Fiction's world a better place. We'll just say that. Anyways, what else should we say before we go on? We should say, though, a very special someone really appreciated this guy's video, which I kind of find a little laughable, to be frank with you. I thought this guy was like the huge philosopher and deep thinker, but inspiring philosophy. What was the quote by him? Like, really good stuff on this video you're about to see.
Yeah,
it was really bad. I'm going to see if I could find it real quick.
So Megan, see, I think this is the thing that bothered me maybe the most. I've got it here.
Oh, yeah.
He said, this was a great response to atheists who misinterpret slavery in the Levitical law. And, the thing is, generally speaking, there are a lot of people that comment to us. I do videos on, stuff like Daniel, the dating of Daniel, and Ezekiel 26. I expect this sort of stuff. But when I get this sort of vitriolic, overtly aggressive sort of stuff, I don't like it. I'm not a very confrontational person, and so I usually just ignore that sort of stuff. But then Megan messaged me today and said, I think you might need to respond to this because it looks like someone that has some subscribers or something has shared this out, and now people are asking you to respond. And I looked, and it was Inspiring Philosophy, and I thought, that's really strange to me because, like, I don't know IP, right? I've watched his debate with you, and I've watched some other debates he's been in. He seems like a nice guy. He seems very articulate. Seems like in certain areas he's very well read, and so it sort of took me by surprise because I don't know. It was a little strange because I'm trying to think of how to word this.
I almost think that, like, what it's just what it comes down to is biased in a sense, right? It's like it oftentimes happens that you have like team atheist and team Christian. And I can be guilty of it every once in a while. But I really try my best to be fair. And I'll be straight up real with a lot of my audience. There are a lot of atheists out there that make absolutely terrible arguments and that are very emotional when they argue. And I think you do yourself a disservice by not knowing scripture, by not being able to articulate clear ideas, clear disagreements, clear contradictions. And like, I do try, I want to call them out. I do try to call them out when I can. But you do have a lot of bad atheists out there that can't make good arguments. And I think when they get in the room with Christians, they strawman them quite a bit, to be frank with you. And, we try to be above that here on Digital Fiction. And we just expect the same from those, especially like IP, Inspiring Philosophy. He's someone that I really hope to get on here one day. I think he would be fun actually to have on the channel. I will say that I guarantee this guy's going to do the same thing IP did probably, which is like, we have a lot of Christians that read that book. Is it by Paul, the guy who's
Copen?
Paul Copen, God is not a moral monster. And they rest all their arguments on that and just scream hyperbolic. Like, oh no, it doesn't really mean that, this country wiped out all these innocent people. But what the text says is something very different. right? Like, remember the guy was on, and he was a lot better. The guy was on Non Sequitur with this. I think his name was Daniel.
Daniel,
Right?
yeah, Daniel Ray.
Ray, and he's actually going to come back on and talk to us. We're working on a particular topic. I was messaging him today on Twitter, but we want to have probably another prophecy conversation or something a little deeper. He's a smart dude, and I
Really
think
is, and super nice.
Super nice, absolutely. So we want to have him on for something a little bit more in depth. But one of the things that I noticed, him like many other people, that no one ever argues about the scripture when they agree with it, right? So like if I read like, God is love, they're like, oh yeah, that just means God is love. Or, Jesus came and gave his only begotten son to save the world. Like, okay, nothing confusing there. But then you go to a scripture like Ezekiel and you're like, hey, the city of Tyre was never destroyed. It says it's going to be completely destroyed here. It'll be rubble. And it's like, oh, no. This doesn't mean exactly what it says here, right? Like we jump through all these hoops in order to try to justify something that's so clearly written in the Bible and then claim some kind of other context. And I would guarantee you what we're about to watch is going to be full of that, where it's like, no, or we'll jump around other verses that aren't related to it. I just have that feeling tonight that that's going to happen. All right. What do you think? Should we get the video started?
Yeah. So just so everybody knows what I've done, I try to be. I see a lot of people that do review videos and they edit out parts that are really important. So I wanted to make sure that in this particular video, we didn't edit out anything that was important. So what I did is I edited out all of our speaking, Skylar.
Mm-hmm.
So all we have is exactly what he said. And we can sort of fill in the gaps. You can go back, obviously, and watch the video. It's the conversation that we had about slavery. By the way, I saw a couple of people asking about my arm. Sorry. I have MS, and every once in a while it tightens up on me and sort of locks in this position. It'll go down in a little while, but I could force it down, but it really hurts if I do that. So
no, yeah, be comfortable. Shit, I told you too. If you were in pain, we don't have to.
No. It's it hurts, but it's just the muscle it's called spasticity, and it tightens up, and it really sucks. Anyway, but I'm good.
All right, let's see here. I should say there is a special medical plant that's supposed to be very good for that. That I will coincidentally be debating on Wednesday night on Modern Day Debates channel, where I will be arguing the pro-marijuana position versus anti-marijuana legalization, which the other gentleman will be debating me on, which I don't really know how that's going to be. I hate to say it like that. It's going to be a slaughter, but like, I don't know. I cannot think of any good reason why marijuana should be illegal. Like for every good reason you could give, there's probably 10 other reasons why it should be completely legal. All right, let's not get too much into politics here, but that's happening Wednesday. We got so much stuff. Andrew Rappaport is going to be on with Dr. Josh and I on Tuesday, Tuesday on the Skylar Fiction Show.
Monday's what? Red pill?
Oh God, yeah. So Monday, Dr. Josh and I are going to be on Modern Day Debates channel, talking with Red Pill Religion, Max, and one other person, one of his friends. And the topic is atheism a hate cult? Yeah, I'm going to let that sink in, guys. Is atheism a hate cult? I do it for you guys. We'll get to mirror that on my channel later. Anyways, let's do this. Let's screen share, get this video started. I hope you guys hear everything okay. Let me know if you have any audio problems. I think we'll be fine. Dr. Josh, let me know if we need to stop the video, because you know this better than I can. So if we need to say anything, you just call it out.
Roger that.
We're screen sharing. Is his name Praise I Am the I Am?
I think so.
All right. There we go. Let me just look at this picture. We got this burning tree. It looks like that.
It'll stay up for most of the.
Will it? Okay.
Most of the video, yeah.
Thou say unto the children of Israel, I have sent me unto you. Exodus 34:14. Okay.
If you pay attention, While Skylar was quoting Leviticus 25:38-46, he decided to dismiss verse 40, all to confirm his bias of chattel slavery. What in verse 40 did he gloss over ignorantly or dismiss? Obviously, what it says about hired workers. God is telling Israel to treat your brother as a sahir in the Hebrew. I think Skylar would concede the Israelites were treated with hospitality. Well, Leviticus 19 outrightly declared.
No, I wouldn't. I would say they were treated with hospitality. All right, we should already pause. We're just going to pause here just real quick because the dishonesty is already there. First of all, when I quote about Leviticus, we're usually going to verses 44-46. Okay. And the reason we are going to them is because that is about foreign slaves, not Hebrew slaves, not indentured servitude. Josh and I will both admit there is indentured servitude in the Bible. We're not arguing against that kind of we're not arguing against that and that kind of slavery. What we're specifically talking about is the kind of slavery that was for foreign slaves. And what it is, it's broken into two paragraphs. You have verses. I should just pull the shit up actually while we're talking about it.
Yeah, I've got it. I can read it whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So yeah, in fact, if you want to read it for us, so what you'll see is the first paragraph is about indentured servitude, which is for the Israelites and the Hebrews. And then the second path is about foreign slavery for. It's about slavery for the foreigners, and it actually clearly articulates what the difference is. What's one can be kept for life, one you can treat with rigor. But anyways, we should just let Dr. Josh read it. I think that will be clear.
Yeah, please. Maybe I think something that shows up in this video is I think that there might be. It may be that he misunderstood what we were saying. I don't know. Maybe we were unclear.
Maybe, yeah. Sometimes I think that happens quite a bit here, where people just misunderstand the complete context of what we're talking about.
I mean, this is. I mean, there's no doubt that this is a complicated issue, right? And so, but I've got a video coming out. Megan and I have a video coming out. It's on our Patreon, whatever, right now. For our Patreons that I think donate $10 a month or more to see, but it's the slavery video, and but it'll premiere on Monday, I think. But you know, there are two types of slavery in the Old Testament text. There's debt slaves, and then there's chattel slaves, and so nobody really argues about the debt slaves, right? It's very clear, and honestly, the chattel slavery is also very clear. Nonetheless, that one presents more problems for people, and so it becomes, you know, a source of contention. But nobody really argues about debt slavery. The issue with trying to, and you ran into this actually, Skylar, in your debate with Mike Winger when you were talking about Exodus 21, and we go into this in the video on Monday. It's difficult at times in the three major passages in the Pentateuch, Exodus 21 in the Covenant Code, Leviticus 25 in the Holiness Code, and then Deuteronomy 20-23. It's difficult at times to figure out whether it's dealing with debt slaves or chattel slaves. Sometimes it's very clear, like the beginning of Exodus 21, where it talks about they're going to be released after 6 years, debt slaves, right? And nobody debates that. And of course, the same thing in the first part of Leviticus 25, as we're going to talk about here. The problem is that the point that we're making in all of this, and this is the part that I think maybe got missed. I don't know. This is just what I theorize, because I think you'll hear it in the video, is we're not trying to make this argument that slavery in the Old Testament was unethical, right, or immoral, right? When we get down to it, we're not trying to say that by their standards, it was immoral or unethical.
Culturally, we're saying.
That's exactly right. That's the whole point, right? And I say it in the beginning of my video. I quote Abraham Lincoln. I hope I don't misquote it. But if slavery is not wrong, nothing is wrong, right? And that's the attitude that we have today. And so the point in bringing up Old Testament slavery is not to say, look how wicked they were, look how terrible Israel was, blah, blah, blah. None of that is the case. What we're trying to say is morality is relative, right? And so it wasn't immoral back then. It is immoral today. And this is an argument against this objective, I don't even want to use objective, but this...
let's say moral realism. So
yeah.
Absolute morality that comes from the God above. Exactly. Well, it also speaks to how he treats people, like, and how he tells people to treat other people.
Yeah.
And that's really more about what that is. Yeah.
So the distinction between when is it talking about a chattel slave, when is it talking about a debt slave, that's sort of something that I think gets maybe lost in the critique here. And that's okay. Like, I don't have any problem with anybody critiquing me. It's honestly, it's that he's so angry. And I don't exactly know why he's so angry. So anyway, but maybe he's not. Maybe that's just the way he talks. I don't know. Anyway, I'll read the passage. I've gone on long enough. Sorry. So we'll just start we're in Leviticus 25. We'll start in verse 35. And if one of your brethren becomes poor and falls into poverty among you, then you shall help him like a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with you. Take no usury or interest from him, but fear your God, that your brother may live with you. You shall not lend him your money for usury, nor lend him your food at a profit. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. And if one of your brethren who dwells with you becomes poor and sells himself to you, you shall not compel him to serve as a slave, but as a hired servant. This is the word that he cites here, a sachir. I lost my place. Sorry. And a sojourner he shall be with you, and shall serve you until the year of Jubilee. And then he shall depart from you, both he and his children with him, and shall return to his own family. He shall return to the possession of his fathers. For they are my servants, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as slaves. You shall not rule over him with rigor, perech, however you want to translate that. But you shall fear your God. Okay, so that's sort of section one that Skylar was talking about there. Sorry, I've talked a lot. Why don't you go ahead? I think you might be muted, boss.
My bad's there. All right. So what verse were we at? We were at 20. No.
That was so I just finished 43. So that's 40. That first section you were talking about.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, so you just finished 43. It's you shall not rule over him with rigor, but you shall fear your God. And as you're at now, this is where 44 comes in. And as for your male and female slaves who you may have, right? So there's the distinction. We're already getting to a distinction right there. And in fact, I'll just screen share so you guys can see this while I'm reading it. All right. So where was I? And as for your male and female slaves who you may have from the nations that are around you, from them you may buy male and female slaves. Now notice up here, it says you can't have slaves up here. Basically, it says, sells himself as a slave, as a hired servant and sojourner.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about that for a second, because that actually also comes up in the video. And we talked about this, but again, maybe it was just missed. I'm not sure. There's essentially one word that's used here, and you'll see people translate it different ways, right? And the reason that it's a great example of why translation is a difficult thing, right? You have the word eved, and eved means anything from like a bondservant to a slave, right? And he goes at one point in the video, he says, look, Jesus was a slave or an eved, and this other person was an eved. Certainly we wouldn't say that they were slaves that were chattel slaves. No, no one would say that. Which is why I think maybe he just misunderstood what I said, or maybe I didn't say it very clearly. But the way that one determines with this particular word, just like with the word run, right? My car is running, or I'm going to run to the store, or I'm running that race. The way that you determine the meaning of a particular word is its context, right? That's how this works. So if you go to the word Eved is used in Exodus 21, the word Eved is used here in Leviticus 25. The way that you determine whether you're talking about a chattel slave, somebody that's property, somebody that's passed down, somebody that, their property is the master's property, right? The way that you determine whether someone is property is chattel slavery, or is a chattel slave, or someone who is a debt slave who is working off a debt and that will be released, is the context. It's not the word, right? And this is the thing. Nobody argues about that. But that's the key to this. So when it says here in Leviticus 25, you shall not compel him to serve as a slave, right? But as a hired servant, verse 40. So that the point there is that your brother, your Hebrew kinsman, when he becomes poor and sells himself into debt servitude, which is so unbelievably common in the ancient Near East, that the Israelites were to, in this sense, the Israelites were to be set apart, right? At least according to the text.
There's all
they were supposed to.
God throughout the Old Testament is setting these people apart in many ways. Like Christians would acknowledge this. That's why circumcision's there. There's why all these different rules about what they can eat, what they can wear, is all to separate these people apart from the nations around them.
And one of the things that he talks about sort of in light of that, and he camps on this, it's actually in this first part. I feel bad because we're not playing this video, but I feel like I'm explaining what he's going to say.
Or is this explaining to the audience what's actually happening in these times?
There's a trope that runs throughout the Old Testament, and it's part of I think what makes in a sense is an attempt to set apart Israel, right? Is this trope of treating the foreigner, the orphan, the widow better, right? Protecting them. Now certainly that's not unique in the ancient Near East, but it's emphasized an awful lot in the biblical text. So he cites Leviticus 19:33, which is that he's absolutely right. I mean, there's no question that this is there. I'll read it here. And I'll read just a little bit before it so you can kind of get the context here. Verse 32, you shall rise before the gray-headed and honor the presence of an old man, and fear your God, I am the Lord. And if a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not mistreat him. But the stranger who dwells among you, shall be to you as one born among you, as a native, right? You shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. You see this in Deuteronomy. I mean, you see this really throughout the Old Testament. This is a trope, right? And there's no question that that's there. Nobody is disputing that. But what he seems to conclude there is if it says that you're to treat the foreigner, the ger, right? You're to treat him as the native born, and you're not to oppress them. You're not to mistreat them. Well, that means that you can't have chattel slavery because that would be oppressing. And I think that it's a non sequitur there, right? Number one, because we specifically see it in the text. And number two, but more broadly, I think, and more to the point, is that a lot of times these general principles, when they apply, we apply them in a way like we would say, well, look, owning these other people, this would be oppressing them, and so you can't. This is the word ashak there, to oppress, to treat very, very badly, violently in some circumstances. Certainly that would cover chattel slavery, but that's not necessarily true, right? And so in other words, there's a hermeneutical approach here that I think probably needs to be tweaked a little bit that says, yes, it's true. There's a general principle that you're not supposed to, as a foreigner comes in. Let me back up and say it a little more clearly. One of the things that was true in the ancient Near East is that when someone left their own country and went to a foreign country, the the protections that were there were very, very different than what they would be today. And even today, I would say, if you travel to certain countries, you're much more vulnerable as a foreigner. And this was exceptionally true in the ancient Near East, right? So the idea that you, as a Hebrew, as an Israelite, were to look out for those that were less fortunate, those that were in a more vulnerable state, a foreigner, an orphan, a widow, right? These were the people, when you harvest your fields, you're not supposed to harvest the corners. You're supposed to leave the corners so that they can glean among them. You see this in the book of Ruth. Sorry. Anyway, so this is the mentality, right? And I think this is very important to the text, but that doesn't negate, necessarily negate, and I don't think it negates at all, the idea of chattel slavery, because chattel slavery doesn't fall under that particular, what would you call it? Those two things are not mutually exclusive. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I've talked a lot.
No, go ahead. Perfect. This is why you're here, is to explain this stuff. And we'll just I'm going to finish the scripture real quick, just so we get this out of the way. We'll start.
Please. Sorry.
No, it's good. This is perfect. So we go here, as Josh was saying. So we have that first verse. Is exactly what Josh is saying. This is about indentured servitude and the rules that involve fellow Israelites. And as for your male and female slaves, whom you may have from the nations that are around you, from them you may buy male and female slaves. Now notice they're not talking about debt here. It's just talking about buying people, male and female slaves. You notice the first verse, it straight up talked about indentured servitude and serving. And then it says, moreover, you may buy the children of the strangers who dwell among you and their families who are with you. And they begat in your land, and they shall become your property. So once again, we use the word property here, referring to an object, instead of talking about debt and you working off a debt. Verse 46, and you may take them as you may take them as inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them as possession. Once again, property, possession. They shall be your permanent slaves. Now, if we go up here, like we said, after 7 years, they have to be released. So obviously, we're talking about two different kinds of slavery here. But regardless, your brethren, the children of Israel, you shall not rule over one another with rigor. So after explaining your debt slaves, which are your fellow Israelites, it goes into your foreign slaves, which is right here, and then clarifies at the end once again, but regarding your brethren, the children of Israel, you shall not rule over one another with rigor. You can't own them for life. I think that scripture is so clear, and I find it ironic that people try to really argue their way out of it here. They're clearly property. This isn't surprising, guys. This is just the ancient Near East. Like, this is what happened. People own people as slaves, right? I guess the part is where people don't feel comfortable as Christians is they have to acknowledge that God condones it, allows it, and regulates it in His time. All right, let's see. Let's start. Oh, I gotta keep screen sharing. Let's get past 10 seconds of the video here.
Sorry.
No. Listen, I think it's more interesting. That sounds so conceited. It's more interesting what we have to say, Dr. Josh, than watching that video. No, I think it's, we're here to entertain. We're here to educate. We're not really going to get much of education, but we want to be fair and hear this. So
you should, because it says to love your brother as yourself. Consequently, the Bible is the source of the golden rule.
No, it's not. It is not the source of the golden rule. This thing has been along way longer than the Bible. So that's just factually incorrect. Lots of religions actually teach the golden rule. Yeah.
To what Digital Hammurabi and Skylar Fiction are purporting. This is where I finally confront Digital Hammurabi. DH, speaking of...
It's Hammurabi, right? Am I crazy? It sounds like you're saying it all weird. Hammurabi. It sounds like a pig version of your show. Like, this is the Hammurabi. All right, sorry. That's not funny.
1918, let's talk about Leviticus 19:34, which says to love the alien, gar in the Hebrew as yourself. If slavery is applicable in Leviticus 25, how can agapeo love in the LXX be possible?
All right, let's just deal with some of this real quickly. So the Bible's full of contradictions, right? How could, I'll phrase a question another way. How could a father love his daughter yet sell her into a marriage as a sex slave or to get out of debt, right? Like that happens in the Bible. There's all kinds of instances where people do things that we wouldn't consider loving because at the time there was nothing culturally wrong with it in their morality for some reason. It was just a different time. Like I said, literally, women were objects. They were to be bought and sold. You sold them to get out of debt. You sold your daughter to get out of debt. And I think when you look at, if you look at a scripture, it's like, hey, be nice to foreigners. It's not talking necessarily about slaves, being nice to foreign slaves. It's just saying be nice to foreigners, probably the ones who were non-slaves in those issues, in those situations. So I think sometimes you have to have, there's a lot of contradictions already in the book. You got to understand it's not as we would understand it as modern day history. Like, that's not how I mean to say that. I mean to say that, like, our society is very different. Our concepts of love, fairness are very different from them. And what they would find as fair is not what we would find as fair and kind. So when you look at scripture where they're like, hey, treat foreigners nice, they didn't necessarily, they would literally distinguish between a foreigner and a foreign slave because they would be two separate entities to them, is what I would guess. I'm not the history scholar. Dr. Josh, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think the thing to note here is that it's complex. And I think that's one of the things that sort of gets not glossed over, but lost maybe in the shuffle, is that when you view the biblical text, particularly the Pentateuch, in a particular way, you expect this form of continuity, right? And you expect this continuity to a very high degree. And what I mean by that is when you view the text as written by a single author, excuse me, that author being Moses, oftentimes that comes with a certain set of presuppositions. I guess they're not presuppositions. I don't know what, I'm not a philosopher, but you have I guess they're presuppositions, a certain set of a framework that you then come to the text with. And so you make comparisons between texts in a certain way. So in my opinion, in order to understand these books of the Pentateuch, it requires, I think, looking a little more broadly and allowing for this type of complexity that I didn't allow for early on in my Christian life. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a general principle of treat other people well, right? And again, if you look at these contexts, there are these people that are vulnerable, right? And they're in a position of weakness, a position of vulnerability. I mean, that's just what it is. And so you as opposed to taking advantage of them, as opposed to charging them interest, as opposed to doing things that profits you, which is what happened. I mean, it happens today too, right? But I mean, it was certainly something that happened in the ancient Near East, that there's a specific trope that goes throughout the text saying, don't do that. I think the problem is then making the assumption then that they viewed in the same way actions that they would have actions that fell under that blanket that didn't necessarily do so. That probably didn't make a lot of sense, that last thing that I said.
I want to say that if anybody saw me laughing on camera, it was not at Josh's comments because he's being so serious. As Josh was speaking, I got an email that was an updated picture of our Pulp Fiction one, the one that I made initially. I don't know if I should show it. I mean, it's far more realistic, but I am definitely black in the picture. So, like, I don't know if this is offensive, but I'm going to show it because fuck it, that's what I do. So I think Josh has not seen this yet. So Josh, I hope you're ready for this. We're going to go. There we go. We got a much more realistic version. I mean, Josh looks amazing. That's so weird. I can see myself in this picture.
Wow. That is really well done.
It is so well done, right? I don't know if I can get away with that, though.
Good grief. How do people do that?
Dude,
that's incredible.
Can we just thank guys? So much thanks, guys, for folks making this artwork. And we need backgrounds. You know how you've seen the other digital fiction and we have a cool background with us in green screen? You guys want to make stuff for us, we will use the shit. I'm going to tell you that right now. We've got some skills, but man, the stuff that we've gotten has been absolutely incredible.
And I think tonight is evidence that I do not have skills when it comes to a computer. So
I don't want to read the guy's name. We'll just say his name's Piers. I don't know if he wants me to use his first and last name, so I won't. But the artwork is amazing. Please send more. Anything with Pulp Fiction or cool stuff from movies and Dr. Josh and I is fantastic. It doesn't have to be Pulp Fiction, but Pulp Fiction is badass, especially with the stuff that we're working on. Thank you. It's fun. We're trying to keep this fun and lighthearted on this channel. We can't talk about slavery and not keep it fun and lighthearted here. Someone asked, how do we submit artwork for backgrounds? SkylarFictionshow@gmail.com, DigitalFictionshow@gmail.com. All the links are in the description. You can do it to digitalhammurabi@gmail.com, any of them. And we're happy to do it. Probably Digital Fiction Show. We both get a hold of that. So that'd probably be the easiest way to do it. But all those links are in the description for all this stuff. Please send it. All your art. We want to see it. Fun stuff. If you even want to make us video intros or whatever, we'll put it on here. All right, let's keep watching this, Dr. Josh, so we can do some more here. All right.
You will probably know many scholars interpret agatio, love, to be unconditional love, higher love than phileo. How can you say the alien of Israel is of Israel? That is a direct contradiction. All this business about parek becomes a non sequitur. Continuing with Leviticus 25:40, hired servants were actually aliens or non-Israelites, as Deuteronomy 24:14 declares. Notice there's a blatant distinction of a hired Israelite and an alien hired servant, showing they are not the same.
No, this is bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm going to call bullshit on this right now. It's clearly not a hired servant in that scripture. Just calling them foreign hired servants is absolutely. I don't think you have an argument to stand on here when he's doing this. And then we're going back to Deuteronomy, where it's talking about Hebrew indentured servitude.
More importantly, this passage mandates that an alien hired worker not be oppressed. The word oppressed in the Hebrew is ashak.
What's the word in the Hebrew? Is it actually ashak? How do you pronounce it?
It's ashak, and that's a verbal form.
All right.
Is to not violate, oppress, defraud, or press upon with roughness, which is parek. Scholars such as B.D.B. Strong and Tyndale define this word as, like I just said, violate, oppress, defraud, or press upon. So there are some very substantial scholars that affirm this. This distinction, though, is made clear in Genesis 15:13, where Israel was an alien to Egypt, non-Egyptians, as well as 2 Samuel 1:13. Let's see here.
I don't know if I can do this, Josh.
What he's talking about here is what we've been talking about. This, he's trying to show, and again, I don't necessarily disagree with a lot of the stuff that he's saying. What I have a problem with is trying to take the general principle of Leviticus 19:33, or where it shows up in Deuteronomy, or even later in the prophets, and trying to then say, well, this precludes the owning of slaves, because I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive, and the text doesn't bear it out, right?
Is there any parts of the video I should switch to a little further, do you think? Or do you think
I've got little I've got little arrows. If you scroll through, you'll see a little red arrow that pops up, which says I'm going to the next section. Next section.
There we go. All right, let's see here.
Digital Hammurabi and Skylar Fiction are special pleading here because a physical rod used for physical harm.
Yeah, you can stop there. I mean, sorry, because as I hear it, I remember what he argues. And please, I don't want to be unfair here or discourteous or anything. So if people watch this video and think that I don't cover something or that we don't talk about something, please, please, please let us know. I'm trying to cover what I think he's arguing. So this is where we talked about the Shavit there in Exodus 21, 20-21, where it talks about if a master beats his male or female slave with a rod.
Let's just read that real quick, just for the audience real quick.
Sure.
Exodus 21, verses 20 through 21. Anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result. But they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. So something, and please touch on this. I know you have a lot you want to say about this, but I want to touch on a couple things, right? They wouldn't mention beating your slave with rods if slaves weren't beaten with rods, right? It wouldn't make any sense contextually to do that. It would be like, I don't know. There's lots of examples you could use, right? It'd be like, you shouldn't feed your dogs apple pie if human beings weren't feeding their dogs apple pie. Like you wouldn't randomly come up with something that they're doing. The second thing that I learned from Dr. Josh, which if you go throughout the Bible, there's tons of examples of people getting beaten with rods. Well, what's the one that's like spare the rod, spoil the child?
Yeah, lots of examples in Proverbs. Yeah,
and there's tons of examples of people being beaten with rods for various reasons. It's not out of the ordinary to think that like a slave would get beaten with a rod. I mean, throughout history, slaves were beaten in different fashion. And the last thing I'll say real quick is, I mean, the key, and yes, there is an aspect of this that is about law and punishment, about you're not allowed to murder, you're not allowed to kill your slave, right? But there's no punishment if the slave doesn't die. So if you beat them really bad, they're injured, whatever, they're really hurting, you don't get punished if they don't die, because why? They're your property, and you have the right to do with your property as you please. Go ahead, Dr. Josh.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you're absolutely right. And this is the interesting thing about it. He agrees, right? He goes. And this is why I say sometimes as I listen to this, I wonder if maybe I just wasn't clear, and we weren't clear in our original presentation of this. I'm definitely willing to entertain that possibility, because he goes to seemingly, if my memory is serving me well, to somewhat great lengths to talk about how this is like corporal punishment, right? He cites how children were beaten this way, which is what we were arguing in the original video. And this is the point of the passage. Now, look, Exodus 21. There's certain parts of it that scholars are very much unified on and agree on, and even the debated portions. There's definitely a consensus view, right? By the way, if anybody's interested. And I don't agree with everything that Gregory Kirikingyo argues, but debt slavery, what is it? Debt slavery, yeah, in Israel and the ancient Near East. Excellent book, full of secondary literature. I have it in my video. I've got the link in my video, but it's jam packed. Raymond Westbrook cited it extensively. Actually, Paul Copan cites it a fair amount in his book. And sorry, I feel like I'm jumping all over the place because this stuff is fresh in my mind. But I agree with a lot of things that Paul Copan says, right? But there's some key things that I disagree with him on. But I just feel like there needs to be a more balanced approach here in a lot of these discussions. What the hell was I saying?
The beat with a rod.
Right. So the point here that I think everybody agrees on is that, well, most everybody agrees on, is that in verses 20 and 21 in Exodus 21, and I go into this in some detail in my video, this is a master who is chastising his slave, right? It's unclear, it's debated whether this is a chattel slave or a debt slave. I tend to think that it's a debt slave, but again, definitely not going to the wall for that. I don't think it really matters. It could be both, frankly, and there are people that think that it is.
The real issue beating is what it's about. It's about beating to the point where if they don't die, then you're not punished for it.
That's right. So the point here, I think that most scholars would agree. Most scholars do agree that the point of this is the idea here is that verse 20, when the master beats his slave, if he's just chastising him, then the slave won't die immediately, right? Because the idea is, it's sort of this logic that you see in a woman, a man and a woman who have sex. If she's in the city and she doesn't cry out, then it wasn't rape. Because the idea would be if she were in the city, she would cry out. I think that's weird, but nonetheless, there was a logic to it, right? If she were in the city and she were getting raped, people would have heard she'd have cried out. So if she's out in the field and she gets raped, then that same stipulation is not there. So the logic is still here. If a master beats his slave and he dies, well, clearly that wasn't just chastisement, right? That wasn't, he did something wrong and he was being beaten for it as punishment. This was murder, right? It was intentional. Whereas verse 21 is, but if he survives for a day or two, and it's debated even whether it means he survives a day or two and then dies, or he survives a day or two and then recovers. In either case, it's not terribly relevant here, in my opinion, for this particular discussion. Then it's unintentional. That's the idea. There's enough doubt if that much time has gone by that maybe it wasn't the beating that killed him. Anyway, it's the idea that this was unintentional, right? And so, but there are a lot of things that are debated in that. We don't have to get into them. But the point here is that we don't disagree with the argument that we made was that this is a type of chastisement, right? This is a punishment, but he goes into great lengths to say, well, corporal punishment in certain countries has worked out really well, and so it's not necessarily immoral. And these are things that I think I would disagree with him on, right? But again, it just shows that different cultures view morality in different ways, view different things as, and that's the point. That's the point.
What else? Was there any other major points in that video that we wanted to address?
In that video or that section?
Oh, no, I guess we could go to the next section.
There are like 6 different sections.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me see if I can get to the name. Oh, there we go.
We do want to do the last one, just because I think it's sort of, we probably should have done it first, but it's sort of, I think, in my opinion, it sort of explains the rest of the video.
All right, hold on. Let's do that here. I'm going to screen share. Giant red arrow.
Hopefully after this, you will see how disingenuous Digital Hammurabi and Skylar Fiction really are. Because Deuteronomy 21:10-14 is actually a mandate against female chattel. And this is also reverberated in Exodus 21:16, where it says, you shall not kidnap or sell anyone, which is punishable by death. Now,
you want to listen to this part.
You can see that is completely distinct from ancient Near East cultures because they merchandise women off continually. It's a continual process.
It's simply not true. But
to Deuteronomy 21:14, it says, you shall not sell her as merchandise or even money, which is debt. So it's even more protection than a female Israelite.
Is he actually going to read the scripture, or is he going to conveniently not read the scripture?
I don't remember. There's this idea that like cultures in the ancient Near East around were like just these horrid, wicked. But take the time. I just, take the time to read through some of the text, right? We went through the laws of Hammurabi, and yeah, there's some really awful stuff in there. There's some pretty awful stuff in the biblical text. By our standards, right? By our standards, there's some awful stuff. By their standards, it wasn't,
Sometimes
And,
I hear the Ken Hovind voice coming out as you speak.
oh God. Oh, well, I certainly can't help that. It's very important that we understand that sometimes language evolves. It's one of the 7 types of evolution. So,
Oh, okay, all right, we can't do this. I'll lose it the whole time. Oh my God. Okay. Well, give me the verse. What he was doing? What is it? Exodus 21.
Deuteronomy 21. This is about the
They're selling their daughters into Deuteronomy 21 verse.
Yeah, the one that you read all the time, 10 to 14.
Okay, hold on a second. Let's see. 21. Because I'm going to read it for the audience. I always like to just read these here. Here we go. Hold on a second. I'll just pull up my cheat sheet because I have a whole document that I keep with all my favorite scriptures on it, so I can pull them out conveniently when I need to. File, open recent. Okay. Yeah. What's funny is I have a feeling he's going to try to not read this. Deuteronomy 21, 10 through 14. When you go to war against your enemies and the Lord your God, is it that one?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
I think that's the one he's referencing here.
Oh, I think he's referencing the selling. Let me listen real quick.
This female captive even has more.
Oh, no, it is. Yeah. Female captive. Okay. Yeah. Deuteronomy 21, 10 through 14. When you go to war against your enemies and the Lord thy God delivers them in your hand so that you take captives, if you see a comely woman among the captives and become so enamored of her that you wish to have her as a wife, you may take her home to your house, but before she may live there, she must shave her head and pare her nails and lay aside her captive guard. After she has mourned her father and mother for a full month, you may have relations with her, and you shall be her husband, and she shall be your wife. However, later on, if you lose your liking for her, you shall give her her freedom if she wishes it, but you shall not sell her or enslave her, since she was married to you under compulsion. There's different translations there will say that she was violated or humbled is the better.
It's the verb ana, and it.
Yeah.
We talk about it actually. We talked about it in the other stream, but it has to do with probably here in that context, it's sort of like defiled. Might not be a bad way to translate that.
No, and I remember pulling up the Hebrew one time. And I mean, every time it's used, it humble, defile. Basically, he's taking her virginity from her.
As a brief aside, there are people asking why I'm sitting on the floor, which I totally understand. Just as a demonstration. So I'm 6'2". This is how tall our bed is.
Holy shit!
It's a really, really, really tall bed. So I'm not, but I get it. It looks like I'm sitting on the floor.
One fucking optical illusion right there.
Oh gosh.
All right, let's finish. I want to hear what this dude had. Now that you guys have heard the scripture, because I think he was going to be kind of shady, probably not listed, but let's see. Screen share. We got to wrap this probably up soon. It's almost 12. Oh my gosh. Let's see.
More protection than a female Israelite. But would you hear this from Digital Hammurabi or Skylar Fiction? No, because it would conflict with their worldview. Now, continuing on with verse 12 in Deuteronomy 21, this commands that a foreign female captive be manicured and assimilated into Hebrew culture after bereaving for a month. Now, there's a key word there, month. So how can rape even be a possibility here?
Yeah, let him finish this train of thought, because okay. I think actually this is
some good stuff here.
Yeah.
All right.
To be shifting the goalpost to insert rape as a possibility here, that makes no sense at all. Then if a man desires to be with a female captive, the marriage was to be consummated through a sexual union. This was typical in Hebrew culture, as Genesis 24:67, Genesis 29:21, and 1 Kings 11:2 document. Note the Hebrew verb go in, bo, in the Hebrew, is an imperfect tense verb, therefore denoting contingency. This is also You can look this up at kukus.org, and I'll provide the link. Therefore, debunking the possibility of rape absolutely debunks any.
Pause that for just a second, if you don't mind. So this is part of. If you screen share for just a second and look back, so people can look back at what he's looking at, what he's got up on the screen.
I'm going to mute while I do this, but go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Oh no, if you screen share.
Oh yeah, no, I got it. Yeah, you're good.
Oh, sorry.
We are screen sharing. Go ahead.
So like here, it's sorry, it's all right. It's Hebrew tenses, right? So this is sort of a general. The traditional view of the imperfect tense is that as a reference to an incomplete or a future action. This is true to some extent. This is like a general explanation of the use of the imperfect, right? So it's listing out different ways that it can be used, right? In the same way that if you were to say, I don't know, the word might, well, maybe not might. I'm trying to think of a good English example, but I can't think of one.
Cool. It could mean like it's cold outside, like it's cool outside. It could be cool, could be a way of saying something's hip or
that's or the present tense, right? The present tense in English can be used in a bunch of different ways, right? Like I am running is like I am running right now. But if you this isn't a good one. Sorry. But if you were to say like it could be like a narrative form, something in the future, like in direct speech, that's not a good example. These tenses in Hebrew can have different nuances depending on the context. That's the point. So citing a possibility of contingency in an imperfect tense it's absolutely true that there are certain contexts where an imperfect is used to be contingent. That doesn't mean that you can then read that wherever you see an imperfect verb. This is the danger, I think, of
half-assed scholarship. I'm such the blunt object in these conversations. and Josh is such the scalpel, just trying to really cleanly explain without being too offensive. Or I'm going to be like, this is bullshit.
What I don't want to do is like put a damper on, because it's a very easy line to cross, right? If I don't want people to think, nobody should think, well, God, I mean, if I can't do anything with these tools, well, then I'm just not even going to deal with it at all. I'm not even going to worry about, because it's pointless, right? Because I can't know anything if I don't have a PhD. Well, it's bullshit, right? I mean, that's bullshit. There's tons and tons of resources out there, good resources, scholarly resources. The whole goddamn reason that we do this channel, it's because we're trying to make those resources available that are reputable. It's just, there's a reason these texts are translated the way that they are, and it's not because these people that translate them are fuckwits, right? They do it for a reason, and it's anyway. But sorry, he's not even talked about the point. The point about the rape is really what I wanted you to hear, Skylar.
It's just so ridiculous. Just think about what's going on. This is all people have to do. I like to put things in plain, simple terms. What's going on in the scripture? The Israelite army has now come in and killed everybody that wasn't a virgin woman most of the time. And this is a theme throughout scripture. They kill the parents, they kill all the men. The virgin women they'll take for themselves. All right. They give them time to mourn, which is a month, which, just perspective, folks, you think a month of mourning when everyone around you has just been slaughtered is enough time to emotionally heal? People don't, people die of old age, and it takes people more than a month to mourn their parents. Like, this is a difficult thing, let alone the conquering army that just came in and wiped out everybody. Your brothers, your sisters, your friends, your family, all gone. And now this Israeli soldier wants to marry you. and he will get to sleep with you on the wedding night, as the guys described in the video. This is a Jewish tradition. If you really want to think that this isn't forced, it's a stretch, right? It's a stretch to believe that a woman would want to marry. Has there maybe been cases where the woman, maybe she hated her culture or maybe hated everybody around her? We'll give you that. I'll give you some weird example might happen. Generally, though, these are human beings. They don't want to have sex with people, just murder everybody in their family. And
It's
even
just,
talk about, yeah, go ahead. Please.
No, I was just going to say it was a little, there was one part of this that was just a little, it concerned me. And he has, I don't think he said it yet. Maybe we should let it play so you can hear it, because I don't want to misrepresent what he says.
Yeah, here, let's keep playing it. We're going back.
So once again, we have Skylar Fiction and Digital Hammurabi starting out with the presupposition the Bible promotes slavery and even rape, only to confirm their bias of biblical slavery and rape in their mind. And
oh, maybe he did say it. But this idea that it couldn't have been rape because she had a month.
Yeah, it's well, and this is what I don't get, Dr. Josh. I don't understand. Christians give up the fucking ghost. Just say that this scripture was written by human beings and not God, and the argument's over, right? What am I going to argue with if you're just like, hey, God didn't really write this part of the Bible. This is probably just human beings talking about wartime, the rules of their culture. Argument's done. I have no argument to hold against you. But you want to have it both ways. You want to say that the scripture is 100% articulate and correct and infallible, and then at the same time want to argue that God told Israelite soldiers they can go and kill families, children, and then force women to marry them, and then that somehow wasn't rape at some point. I still challenge, and I'm getting tired, so we may have to wrap this up.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I've been.
Do you want to play?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. You were going to say something about challenges.
Oh yeah, let me say this. So my challenge to everybody out there, and this is specifically, I still haven't had it answered by a Christian, is point to me in one place in the Bible where there is consent and a woman wanting to marry a man, right? Find it, especially the Old Testament. Find a place where you see that the woman chose the man asked the woman if they could be married, where they weren't sold, where they weren't given away, where they weren't captured. Find it and send it to me. I'm happy to see it, and I will be corrected if that is in the actual Bible. SkylarFictionshow@gmail.com. What's up?
I was just going to say, maybe we should play just skip to the very end. And I honestly, if I don't even know the guy's name. If he's watching, we're not intentionally trying to like skip over. I'm trying to remember all the things that you've talked about. But please go watch his video. You know, if there are things that we haven't touched on, please do so. But yeah, that last section, I think it sort of explains, I think. And it made me feel bad, frankly, because I felt like it's the reason I went back and listened to my video where I talked about his video, because I thought, well, geez, maybe I was an asshole. But yeah, if you want to play that part.
2 minutes left. Sorry.
It's no surprise here that Skylar Fiction and Digital Hammurabi completely failed in understanding 1 Kings 9:20 through 22. And actually, if you look in verse 21, the word bond service is actually a verb, not a noun. It is the cognate of abed, and it's abad. And it simply means to work, to serve, or to till, and that's all it means. And there's nothing outside of that you can add to it. And if you look in the last verse, of course, the children of Israel would be taken to war and not the captives, because the captives would obviously subvert Israel. So it makes sense that the captives were put to servitude, to work, while Israel went to war. And if you can't see that, then you're blinded by your presuppositions, and this has been a continual, habitual problem with these guys. So hopefully people can see after watching this video cast that Skylar Fiction and Digital Hammurabi implemented their own circular bias in every
circular bias. The fuck does that even mean?
verse they were trying to exegete. But in doing so, they actually eisegeted because they added their own presuppositional biases into the text. And I find this troubling and unfortunate for Digital Hammurabi because he is heralded as this, wonderful and super Hebrew scholar. And I didn't see this here. I think he completely neglected 95 to almost 99% of the scriptures he mentioned or he was commentating on here. And maybe this is a taste of his own medicine because he actually scathed me on one of my other videos on semantics and checking biblical sources and such. So I find that ironic. And I didn't see any legitimate scholarship at all. I thought it was dishonest and disingenuous. So I've lost respect for digital. But as far as Skylar is concerned, my expectations for him were really the same. I didn't expect much out of him. But anyway,
like,
if you pay attention,
I feel like he was trying to say something. He just kind of mumbled off. He's like, Skylar, fucking donut, fucking cake, Skylar Fiction, expectations. Yeah. Fucking A, bro. Listen, man, here's what I'll say. I've come to the conclusion that, how do I say this? It's very hard to take the lenses off, right, of your own belief structure. It is difficult. Like I say, I'm not perfect at it. There are times where, I let my own biases get in the way. But I try to be fair these days. Every time I talk to a Christian and have a debate with a Christian, I'm always super excited. Like, I'm like, maybe this is the one. Like, this is the one that opens my eyes and gives me a new perspective. But it's the same old things every time. It's over excusing the scripture. They did like how many times did he say worldview, presuppositions? Like, they're just words. They don't really mean anything in the context that you're using them.
And I feel like it's projecting a little bit.
It is. Yeah, I agree. I do. I think it's pretty. And, I'm happy to have this guy. We can come on here and talk to us. We can have him on our show. And he can come on and if he wants to chat. I mean, I would definitely recommend him in the future to leave Megan alone. Like, it's not like she's not involved with this particular show, Digital Fiction. She has helped us with some of the OBS things. God bless her. But but other than that, I don't know. It'd be like messaging my wife about this stuff. Like, my wife isn't playing around here on YouTube with my Skylar Fiction channel. But I don't know. Well, I'm so tired. What else you got to say, Dr. Josh? What else can we talk about before we go? Audience, if you have any questions, this is the time to ask it. We did have 51 people watching, which is impressive because it's more than I had this afternoon at 8 a.m. when we had my the kind of sex God's cool with, I think was the episode, is what I called it earlier today. And I reviewed a video of a Christian marriage counselor and couple talking about the kinds of sex you could have. Luckily, oral sex, totally cool. All right, anyways, I keep bringing Digital Fiction. I'm trying to keep it cleaner. Please, Dr. Josh.
I just sort of in closing, I guess what I would say is maybe what we all ought to be shooting for, and I know that like Skylar and I, what is our little catchphrase that's on our intro? Like raining down wrath, or since that it's the Pulp Fiction quote.
Yeah.
Bringing down great wrath or something. And yeah, I mean, yeah, no question. I mean, I do feel like sometimes these things get a little fiery, but in the end, I think, so much of that is entertainment, and I think that's great. I think that's great. But this video really struck me. He seemed really angry, and maybe hurt. And certainly, my video was not intended to do that. And I just want to take a moment and say, if it came across that way, I'm really sorry. That's not how this was intended. I thought I said in the video a number of times that it was a very admirable thing that he was doing. But I just think it needed to be done with a little more caution. But at any rate, so I do apologize if it was taken that way.
You're right, Dr. Josh, is that I think what happens a lot of times is that I think Christians think we're just trying to be mean to them and make fun of their religion, right? And I listen, I'll be the first to admit, sometimes my tone can be very satirical. I could say things, I sometimes generalize, which I shouldn't do. But we're not trying to, I definitely have a problem with Christianity in the sense that I think that it would be better if you didn't believe in it, right? I'm going to be honest with you on that. But it's not a reason that I don't like you or that I'm purposely trying to make you look bad. I'm just trying to show logic and reason to you. Someone asked in the audience real quick, and maybe I should try to answer. So Messenger Reveals asked, what's the difference between this channel and the Skylar Fiction Show channel? What I would say is we're going to do much more scholarly, I can't even say it tonight, type stuff on this channel. We're going to, the Skylar Fiction Show is a lot of one-on-one conversations. We have a lot of fun. There's a lot of humor involved on that channel. Not that there's not a lot of humor here, but we're going to try to do upper level stuff here. We're still working on everything, putting everything together. Josh and I we have a lot of stuff going on in our personal lives, like our channels. Like we're trying to elevate this. Like we try to do the lights tonight, our green screen and OBS, but it takes time. I worked from, I don't know, what time did I get to work today? I actually had to work in the afternoon. So, I was up with the kids, doing all that, bringing them to school. I had 2 hours to do a hangout this morning on my own channel. Then I literally went to work at 11, got there by 12, got home. Josh was nice enough to try to set up everything before I could get home. I ate a quick something, and we jumped on live to do this. So, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it's going to take some time to build and perfect this channel and make it exactly what we want. But we have a vision. It's going to be entertainment, education, and style and art is the way I look at it. And we've got lots of ideas. Yeah. And we're just combining our talents, man. We want to have something fun. Not that, Dr. Josh is a regular part of the Skylar Fiction Show. Let's be real at this point. He's the co-host of the show, right? But we want to have something else too. We want to have another channel we could have fun, play around, come up with cool ideas that may be a little different. And how that difference is, how they evolve, we'll see. That's part of the magic of YouTube. That's how we grow. And we test things. We see what you like. And if you don't like them, tell us to eat a bag of dicks and do something different. All right? That's all you're going to do. I'm sorry. It's been a long day, and I'm just rambling.
Yeah, we can go. We can sign off, man.
No, you're fine. You're fine. What? Please, any final thoughts on maybe you think of any of the differences for your channel, but any final thoughts for what was the guy's name, by the way? Is it the I am or something?
Yeah, I think that's his screen name. And I have said that I'm very happy to go on to JMD Apologetics channel, and talk to him. I saw him in the side chat. Again, John sounds like a really nice guy. Going to school for religious studies. I can't remember specifically what biblical. I think it's a biblical degree. But I mean, seems like a very really, really after the truth. And I really appreciate that. But I will say this. This is what I'll say. I went on Talking Doctrine's channel.
Good stuff, by the way. You guys got to check it out.
It was a lot of fun. And here's the thing. If I could have relationships or conversations like I had with Talking Doctrine, all the time, that's what I do, because we disagreed fundamentally, right? I mean, we really did. He knows it. His audience knows it. I know it. We disagreed fundamentally, but it was so much fun because I respected him and he respected me. And, you know, as I'm saying these things, you know, like, this is why I left Christianity. I was an evangelical Christian, and this is why I left. I would say, I don't mean that to be offensive. Like, I'm not saying that you guys shouldn't believe that, or, you know, and he's like, oh no, you know, and then he would say things that he knew I disagreed with, and he'd say, I'm not trying to put down what you believe. This is because when you care about the other person and how they feel and what they think, this is, I guess this is how I feel like things really develop, right? And that's why this video bothered me, I think, more than anything, because I feel like he had his feelings hurt, and he sort of lashed out. And I get it, I understand it, but I hope we can just move forward in a more productive way, I guess. All right, that's all.
No, all right. Yeah. So we have that was that's what we would say about all that. I think next Saturday or Friday we'll have another show going on, but you can catch Dr. Josh and I with a lot of stuff this week. You anything coming on Digital Hammurabi tomorrow? Anything exciting happening?
What is tomorrow?
Saturday. I don't think.
I work. Remember.
Maybe I might do a latent video tomorrow if I play around or something. But I gotta work 1 to 10, which means I don't get home till like fucking 11.
I'll probably do like a book club or something.
Yeah. So check that out. Monday, check out us on Modern Day Hysteria's channel, Modern Day Debates channel, debating red pill religion on why atheism is a hate cult. I feel ashamed even saying it out loud that we're going on.
How do you prepare for that? I don't know how to prepare for that.
We drink heavily. Maybe we smoke some weed if you got it. So we're gonna do that. Tuesday, Andrew Rappaport will be on the Skylar Fiction show. And you know, Dr. Josh and I will be there to have a conversation. That should be interesting. He's part of the Bible thumping wingnut crowd and Calvinist. And I don't know if I'm going to say anything bad about him, but I hope everything goes well with that. I really want him to come on. I hope he doesn't back out or anything. I think he'll do it. And then Wednesday, I will be back on Modern Day. I'm going to go on there twice this week. Modern Day Debates channel, arguing for marijuana legalization against an opponent who's against it. And I don't know why he'd be against it. Math Magic Pagan says Skylar knows it all. That is absolutely right. And you better recognize motherfuckers. Recognize the knowledge. And what I don't know, we got Dr. Josh on here for.
Oh God, if I don't mention this, I'll get sorry. The HAP scholarship, Humans Against Poor Scholarship. So we're if man, what am I supposed to say about it? Damn it. We've gone up. I think we're at something like $600 a month. We're like really close to $600 a month on our Patreon, monthly Patreon. It's crazy what you guys have done. So thank you. I think there's still time to do the $20 or more a month to get or a $20 donation. I can't remember which one it is. Sorry, Megan. Where you get the free print of Megan's drawing. But yeah, we've got all kinds of applications that have come in. So when the application process stops, I think it's February sometime. You know, we'll get those things sorted and we'll get them out to our Patreon. So, you know, become a Patreon and, you know, help, you know, have a vote, because every Patreon gets a vote on who gets the scholarship. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. We still don't have an outro for this channel. So, no, we don't. You know what? We're going to say my normal catchphrase, unless you have something special.
I'll tell you what, I'll beatbox while you do it. You ready?
Yeah. All right. So, next time, subscribe and make the world a better place.